Right. Thank you everyone for joining us. Whoever's here yet, we'll wait just another minute and then we will go ahead and get started. Right. Thank you everyone for joining us. Whoever's here yet, we'll wait just another minute and then we will go ahead and get started. Right. Thank you everyone for joining us. Whoever's here yet. All right, everyone, we are going to go ahead and get started with the award ceremony and the debate showcase. Just to introduce myself, my name is Gabbi Gruver. I currently live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I am going to be a full-time graduate student at Marquette University in the fall. I'm going to be getting my second master's degree in political science. For the past 3 years, I have been working with Teach for America in Milwaukee and teaching high school special education. While also teaching special education, I have coached high school and collegiate speech and debate for the past 3 years. And I've also been with Capital Debate for approximately 3 years. So this is my third summer teaching, and I've really enjoyed it, getting to work with your students. And it's always a surprise getting to meet all of the different personalities. And even though we're virtual, we still get to know each other very well. And I believe that everyone has made a lot of friends and had a lot of good memories throughout their time in the camp this summer. So a little bit about what we've done. There's a lot of different things that we've done throughout this camp for only 2 weeks. It ranges from impromptu speaking to extemporaneous speaking. We gave a persuasive speech. We also learned about research skills, nonverbals, vocal variety, questioning games, and had a lot of debates. So all of your students have grown quite a bit and have done a great job these past 2 weeks, excuse me. I've had a really good time working with each and every one of them, and their personalities have shined through and have ultimately really made this camp very enjoyable and really fun for all of us to be a part of. So, our award ceremony. So this is our class picture. There are 4 students and me, and that has been our group for the past 2 weeks. And so I'm going to go through each student and talk a little bit about their strengths and how much they've grown, and really just shine light on the fact that everyone has done so well in this camp and has given their best effort. So our first student is Neil Kasula. Now, Neil is what we call the master of extemporaneous speaking. Extemporaneous speaking is a very difficult form of speaking. It's not quite impromptu speaking where you're speaking directly on your feet, but you get a little bit of time to research and prepare, and then you put those evidence points together and create a speech really off the top of your head. And Neil has been able to grow dramatically in his extemporaneous speaking. Not only did he have a natural gift for it, but he's been able to use those skills to be a really great debater and an expert in the field. No matter what topic we were talking about, whether it's pancakes versus waffles or flying cars, Neil has really mastered extemporaneous speaking, and I'm really happy to see him grow and become more confident in his extemporaneous speaking. Our second student is Kayla Hua. Now, Kayla is what we call the most energetic student. No matter when it came to games, speeches, research, debate, she always brought a lot of enthusiasm and energy to the group. Recently, we've been playing a lot of what's called Spyfall, which is trying to detect who's the secret spy, and also Scribble.io, which is kind of like Pictionary. And Kayla has brought a lot of energy to those games, and it's really made them enjoyable, and everyone has had a great time. And so we call Kayla the most energetic student of the group. Our third student is Yunling Lin. Now, Yunling is the master of research. She came into the 2 weeks, with a lot of natural research skills and a lot of practice. But we've seen her research skills grow even more immensely. Now, her opening speeches and what you're going to hear for the debate is fantastic. There's a lot of evidence and research that Yunling uses very effectively in all of her speeches, and I believe that that's going to shine through today for you all in the debate showcase. So Yunling is our master of research. And our last, but certainly not student, is Alicia Parikh. Now, Alicia is the most motivational. She can be very persuasive. Again, we talked about all sorts of impromptu and extemporaneous topics. And so she was able to use that not only in her speeches, but also in Spyfall and other cross-examinations and other skills and activities that we partook in. She's very passionate about topics and has been able to tailor it to speech and debate. And I believe that you're going to be able to see that she's very motivational and very persuasive in her speeches for the debates that you're going to see. And that is our class. Now, if you guys have had a good time, which I hope you have for this camp, we do also offer more programs and camps at Capital Debate. Now, some of the camps that we're offering this summer and every summer is legal communication, business communication, interpersonal communication, and STEM communication. Not only that, but we do have other debate camps, and we do also have an advanced debate league for those who are feeling ready for it. The debate league is more focused on specifically the debates, working with the coaches, and really trying to fine-tune those debate skills. If you have any questions or concerns about any of those camps or are interested in signing up, you can email us at team@capitaldebate.com, or you can call the number on the screen. If any of you would like to sign up for more camps, you can go to capitaldebate.com. There are virtual camps and in-person camps this summer. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email that number or call that number, as well as I've been emailing you all an email every day, and my email is in there. It's ggruver@capitaldebate.com if you have any specific questions for me. So we would absolutely love to see your students at more camps this summer or next summer. And if you do have any questions, please let us know. We would love to answer your questions and help you in any way, shape, or form. And this is our class. We took a fun picture yesterday, and I believe that everyone's personality really shines through in this picture and this screenshot, and it has been an absolute joy working with your students. They always brought lots of creativity and fun to the debates and their speeches, and so I believe this picture really represents all of our students and their personalities. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to switch to our showcase. A little bit about our showcase. You're going to hear 2 debates this afternoon. The first debate is going to be Neil versus Yunling, and the second debate is going to be Alicia versus Kayla. Now, each student is either going to be on the pro side, they're going to be arguing for the topic, or they're going to be on the con side and they're arguing against the topic. There's a few different speeches that you're going to hear. First, you're going to hear an opening speech from each person. Then you're going to hear cross-examination, where each student is going to have the chance to ask questions for the other person and also answer questions by the other person. Then you're going to hear a refutation speech, which is arguing against their opponent's points. And lastly, you're going to hear a closing speech. The closing speech is going to really have to end with a bang and tell us why we believe their side has won and why we should vote for them. Now, the topic for this round: electric vehicles should replace gas vehicles. This is going to be a topic that both teams are going to be arguing for. And so it's not going to change, and we are going to be arguing either for electric vehicles or for gas vehicles. All right, and with that, I believe we're ready to head into our first debate. And our first debate is going to be Neil versus Yunling. Neil is going to be representing the pro side, or he's arguing for electric vehicles. And on our con side, we have a Yun Ling who's going to be arguing against electric vehicles. And so with that, I'm going to let Neil take it away, and he's going to open up with his 4-minute opening speech. And I hope you all sit back and enjoy and relax and learn something from this debate. So Neil, whenever you're ready, you can take it away.
The Earth is changing due to global warming. If humans continue to release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, animals and plants could die and become extinct. Even humans someday might die off. So we must start changing how we live our lives, or else we won't be on Earth for much longer. We should start with gas culls, because according to the United States Environmental Protection Agency, every gas cull releases more than 10,000 pounds of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere every year. And now, thanks to Elon Musk, we have a solution: electric cars. Electric cars replace gas vehicles because they're more eco-friendly, they're cheaper over time, and they have a better performance than their gas guzzling alternatives. For my first argument, electric vehicles are more eco-friendly than gas vehicles. In fact, according to EDF Energy, one electric vehicle saves 1.6 US tons of carbon dioxide every year. This means that if just 1/4 of the US became electric vehicles, 116 million tons of carbon dioxide would be saved every year. Therefore, in order to save our planet, we must start changing to EVs, or else we'll only hasten global warming's impacts on the Earth. For my second main point, electric vehicles are also cheaper than gas vehicles. In fact, a research study in 2018 from the University of Michigan's Transportation Research Institute said that the average person spends $632 more on gas vehicles than electric. But after the invasion of Ukraine, gas prices skyrocketed, and now it is more than double that. In fact, now the average person pays $1,376 more for gas than electric. Not only the refueling costs, but electric vehicles don't require as much maintenance that gas cars require. For my third argument, electric vehicles have a better performance than gas vehicles. So according to Wallbox's breakdown on how an electric vehicle receives instant acceleration, an electric vehicle's torque is 0 miles. Torque is the force that moves the car forward, and 0 miles of torque results in instant acceleration. Electric vehicles also happen to be lighter, so there's less friction, and they have a lower noise pollution level. So there is no reason that you shouldn't get an electric vehicle. This is because electric vehicles are more eco-friendly, they're cheaper over time, and they have a better performance. In fact, many recent studies show that electric vehicles would be more prevalent than ICE cars in many countries by 2033 and worldwide in the next couple of years. So if you don't want to miss out on the action and help save the environment, then you should switch to electric vehicles.
My first question is, have you considered the negative effects of lithium and cobalt mining on the environment, and both of which are required to make electric vehicles?
If you're saving so much carbon dioxide, just a little bit of pollution of lithium and cobalt pollution is fine.
Are you sure that lithium and cobalt pollution only creates a little bit rather than more?
Cobalt especially. Tesla's moving away from cobalt batteries, and if Tesla starts to move, other electric vehicle brands will start to move away from cobalt.
What about lithium?
Lithium might be used, but it's saving the environment or polluting waterways.
Well, polluting the waterways is certainly not saving the environment, and can also definitely negatively harm the environment. So what do you think of that?
It's because if we don't not put carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, then you're polluting the earth, and the earth will have global warming, and global warming will have catastrophic effects.
I would argue that polluted waterways would also have a very large effect on the planet. But also, have you considered the price of used gas vehicles and how that might actually still make electric vehicles more expensive?
Well, since they use gas vehicles, once in the next 5 to 10 years, when electric vehicles start to become more popular, there's going to be used electric vehicles for people who don't want to buy a brand new electric vehicle.
That might be true, but actually, do you know that used electric vehicles are actually getting more expensive rather than less expensive?
And why would that be? Do you have any reasoning behind that?
Yes, in fact, a source called Recurrent that specializes in electric vehicles says that in the last year, the price of used electric vehicles has actually gone up by 25% and doesn't seem to be going down.
Okay, well, they're going to go down eventually.
It says that there are no signs of significant drops in price. So
Have you considered using a second source to back that up?
actually, multiple sources show that used electric vehicles are getting more expensive.
Okay.
So that might make the electric vehicles more expensive either way.
All right. But still, they're cheaper than if you wanted to get a cheaper electric vehicle, then you can just get the used one. And
All
electric
right, guys.
vehicles,
Thank you. That's your cross-examination time. Yunling, whenever you're ready for your next speech. Oh, Yunling, you're muted. There you go.
Electric vehicles have been getting a lot of buzz and attention from the media recently, but does that really mean that they are so much better than their gas-powered counterparts? I maintain that electric vehicles should not replace gas vehicles because gas vehicles are easier to fuel, they are more familiar and thus safer, and they are also less expensive. Firstly, gas cars are significantly easier to fuel. Gas stations are way more common than electric charging ports. In fact, the American Petroleum Institution says that there are over 145,000 charging gas stations in the United States, while the Department of Energy only reports about 48,000 charging stations. Also, it takes far longer to charge an electric car compared to refueling a gas car. It only takes a few minutes to fill up an empty tank of a gas car, but it can take hours to charge an electric car. Because gas stations are so much more common, that makes gas vehicles safer because you are less likely to find yourself in a situation where you have low power but are unable to find yourself a place to charge. Thus, that means in a gas vehicle, you're less likely to find yourself stranded anywhere without power. Secondly, gas vehicles are more familiar to people and thus safer. People are used to how electric cars drive and how they feel when driving, specifically the acceleration and the motors. Firstly, electric cars accelerate super quickly, and though that might seem like a positive, it can actually be a negative because people might not realize how fast they are going until it is too late and may have caused an accident. Also, the motors are much quieter, and though that could also be seen as a positive, it can certainly also be a negative because the driver might not realize how fast they're going, and pedestrians might not be able to realize that there's a car nearby. In fact, Scientific American reports that people could only notice an electric vehicle 11 feet away, only giving them 2 seconds to respond, while they could find a gas vehicle from over 36 feet away. Lastly, despite saving money on refueling costs and even maintenance, gas cars can still be less expensive compared to electric cars. This is partly because of the significantly lower initial price. They are about $10,000 less than the average electric vehicle, and the average used car, according to Kelley Blue Book, is over $20,000 less expensive than the average electric car, making it much less expensive. You might consider that there are higher refueling prices, but even if you were to save about $1,000 a year on refueling and maintenance, that would only cancel out after 20 years, which is far longer than the average ownership of a car. Also, the repairs for an electric vehicle may cost more money because less people will know how to fix an electric car, and thus the service may be more expensive. Also, the high initial price may make it more difficult to pay off the high initial deposit, making it more difficult to buy the electric car. Overall, when we make changes in society that are big and affect everyone, they should also be fair and accessible to everyone. So if we can't make electric cars accessible to everyone, then we shouldn't make that switch. So for those reasons, I believe that electric vehicles should not replace gas vehicles because gas vehicles are easier to refuel, they are safer, and they cost less on even if you consider refueling costs. So despite the buzz, electric vehicles should still remain an exception and should not take over the roads.
Okay, so do you happen to know the average used like electric vehicle cost or what it's gonna be?
Okay, currently, I believe according to Recurrent, it's about $20,000 or $30,000, which is similar, but it's actually also going up right now, while the average cost of a used gas car is staying about the same.
What would happen? Wait, what is the average cost of the average used cost of a gas vehicle?
It's about $25,000, I believe.
Okay, so at the same price. So they're about what, 5,000, 10,000-ish away?
But
Yeah.
the current price of a used electric vehicle is actually going up, and it already went up 25% in the last year.
Okay. Okay, well, to have you considered, and when I believe you said maintenance will cost less for a gas vehicle. Did I get that correct?
No, I'm not saying that necessarily, but maintenance for an electric vehicle could be harder to come by because as less people know how to fix electric vehicles.
It might be harder to come by, but you would have to go less often, so it wouldn't have to be like a yearly checkup.
It might not necessarily be that you would go less often. There just could be less things that could go wrong, but that doesn't necessarily always make it cheaper, especially if you have a problem that might like a battery change.
Okay, and have you considered the Biden administration adding 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations?
I believe that according to the whitehouse.gov, it's 50,000, not 500,000, but
I
even
believe it's 500,000. They're allocating $5 billion to it, or 7.5.
okay, well, even then, that could make it harder to find because as of right now, many of them are actually found not working. So that could mean that if they could malfunction, and also they are still currently less accessible and could be more expensive depending on whether or not they are fast chargers or not as fast chargers.
Okay.
All right, thank you guys. Neil, whenever you're ready to give your refutation speech, go ahead.
Okay. So in your first point, you mentioned that electric vehicles are easier to fuel, and the Biden administration said that they'll add 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations, and that will make there'll be more electric vehicle charging stations than gas. And you also mentioned in that argument that fueling on gas vehicle takes less time, and so according to National Geographic, a team led by Xin Li, a Harvard University's materials scientist, made a prototype of a battery that can charge in 3 minutes. And this prototype may be commercially available in the next 5 years. So, yeah, that's why I think that the easier to fuel part, that's why I think I won that argument. And then on your second argument, you said people are more familiar with gas vehicles, but we need to evolve as a species and we need to take risks. We need to go to the next step. We can't just stay where we are right now and wait and wait and wait until it's too late to go back and help save the environment. Right now, the earth is changing. And so right now we need to make that change and we need to go into gas vehicles and we need to take risks. And so I think that even if it's more familiar, we need to take that risk so we can move on and evolve as a species. And then in your third argument, you mentioned that it's cheaper to own a gas vehicle, but the federal EV tax credit can go up to 7.5 thousand. And you mentioned that the difference was about $10,000. And then that would mean there's about 2.5 thousand left. And that money will easily be made back in the gas because like the difference in refueling prices and the low maintenance costs. And so that is why I think that we should replace gas vehicles with electric vehicles.
In my opponent's first argument, he argued that electric cars can be less expensive. And though refueling may be cheaper, if one were to own a used vehicle, which like I said earlier, is $20,000 less expensive, that might not be made up in the average ownership of a car. And the tax credit isn't always so high, and it can sometimes only be as low as around $2,000. Also, according to Recurrent, the price of used electric vehicles has gone up by 25% in the last year and shows no signs of going down, which means that used electric vehicles still might not be the best option. Also, owning a used car might mean that a family might use their car for longer rather than replacing it, meaning that they might need a battery change, and the warranty only lasts about 8 years. And replacing a battery outside of warranty can cost upwards of $16,000, which is extremely expensive. Also, a CNBC article reports that the raw material prices for an electric car have also gone up in the past few years, having gone up over $1,000 in just the past 3 years, and could continue to go up as time goes on and as these materials become more depleted. His second argument was that electric vehicles are comparatively more eco-friendly compared to the gas vehicles. However, this isn't true in actually many different ways. For example, lithium-ion batteries, which power electric vehicles, require lithium, which can cause many negative environmental effects. Specifically, it contaminates water and requires a lot of fresh water to mine. This makes the waterways unusable to the people who rely on them, which could be a big problem, especially considering the already current freshwater shortage. Also, though you may argue that other things like phones also use lithium for their batteries, it's comparatively very small. The average amount of lithium in a Tesla Model S's battery is 63 kilograms of lithium. On the other hand, the amount of lithium in a phone battery is only about 2 to 3 grams, which is thousands of times less than the amount in a car battery. Also, Tesla's chief technology officer is also worried about the cobalt supply because of the conflict-prone Congo, where 70% of the world's cobalt comes from, meaning that it's actually quite an important problem. My opponent's last argument was about performance, but though electric vehicles may have faster acceleration, they have worse performance in other facets. The Department of Energy in the United States reports that the average range of an electric car is over 150 miles less than that of an electric car, and gas cars have a higher top speed and can maintain those top speeds for longer, making them actually have a better performance compared to electric cars.
Can I use 2 minutes of prep time?
Yep.
Okay. I think electric vehicles should replace gas vehicles because of many reasons. You also mentioned that there's a 20K difference in prices, and you mentioned that used uh used electric vehicles used electric vehicles um but the difference was only that was a used gas versus a new electric vehicle. When a used gas versus a used electric vehicle is only about $5,000 to $10,000 difference. And so I would like to, and that's why I think I won that argument, because $5,000 to $10,000 can easily be made up in very quickly with an electric vehicle because of gas prices and maintenance. And also, you mentioned that battery prices are expensive, but I think few people find themselves in the position after warranty when they would need to buy that, because the warranty again is about 8 years, and typically batteries need to be replaced every 7 years, which would mean that if you needed to replace it, would be after 14 years, and that's way longer than the average person keeps a car. And so, and you also mentioned how lithium ion batteries contaminate waterways. And here's the question I want to ask. It's either contaminated waterways or global warming catastrophic events on the earth that could make it uninhabitable. Because contaminated waterways can be filtered and cleaned after long periods of time. We can clean waterways, but in order to remove millions of billions, maybe perhaps, of tons of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, that's really hard. So that is why I think I won this argument, and I think that is why electric vehicles should replace gas vehicles.
Can I use 1 minute of prep time?
Yep, absolutely. All right, that was 1 minute, Yunling.
Despite all the points that my opponent made during this debate, I still believe that gas cars should remain and that we should not replace them with all electric cars. First, it is true that we need to take risks in society, but we shouldn't make those risks, especially if they will cause the unnecessary deaths and accidents of many people. And if that risk overlooks many important aspects about safety, which is always important when we implement new technology. Also, we should not make changes in society if they're going to be unethical and unfair. The rise of electric vehicles will only push more people into the dangerous mining circumstances is for mining cobalt and will only pollute more waterways. This is completely unethical because it will be making people practically These suffer for climate change, which they themselves actually contributed very little to. So generally, this would be unethical and unfair to many people. Also, my opponent completely dismissed contaminated waterways as not a very large issue, saying that they could be filtered out, when in fact it is simply not true, and these toxic chemicals released by lithium cannot be filtered out through the water. We can lower carbon emissions through more renewable energy and power plants, for example, but we cannot make more water to make up for that which has been contaminated by lithium mining. Also, my opponent assumed that there are no other ways to lower carbon dioxide emissions in the air, which is also not true, since we can lower them through more renewable energy in other places. So for those reasons, I still believe that we should not be replacing all of our gas vehicles with electric vehicles, because the creation of electric vehicles is unethical and unfair for society.
All right. Thank you to Neil and Yen-Ling for such a great, riveting debate. Next up, we will have Alicia and Kayla. Alicia will be representing the pro side and Kayla will be representing the con side. Again, our topic is electric vehicles should replace gas vehicles. And Alicia, whenever you're ready for your opening speech, take it away.
Why are electric vehicles so underrated? What's so special about owning one in the first place? Well, surprisingly, Tesla ranks second in the stock market car industry, according to Google, even though they're barely usable or even affordable. Well, that's a common accusation about electric vehicles. But really, electric vehicles should replace gas vehicles because they're helpful towards the environment, easier to build, and overall cheaper than gas cars. Electric cars are green, clean, and efficient. Instead of burning off fossil fuels, it relies on electricity. Their machinery is different, and so electric vehicles don't waste the USA's limited supply of gas, and therefore the pollution for our planet will decrease. With a few tweaks, electric cars can become close to perfection. Electric vehicles also help with noise pollution, which is a good and a bad thing. It's bad because pedestrians won't be able to hear the car coming, but it can be argued that you shouldn't be walking and texting at the same time. Also, it can make a slow car feel like it's going fast, which can be unsettling to some people. But it's also a good thing, since noise pollution affects our well-being. With gas cars contributing to it, our health can drop quickly. Electric vehicles run on electricity, so our air quality is much cleaner and our healthcare will be stable without having to worry about stuff like lung diseases. Electric vehicles are also easier to build, since they have less parts, which also means there's less maintenance. On October 27, 2019, Zach Hurst reports you only need about 6 main parts to operate this vehicle, such as the battery pack, electric motor, power inverter, an onboard battery charger, charging port, and a battery management system. Unlike gas cars, they don't need gasoline, oil filters, spark plugs, etc. Electric vehicles don't even use engines because there's no gas to burn off. Instead, the electric motor takes energy from the battery and moves it throughout the entire car. Although there are some downsides to owning an electric car, the benefits outweigh the cons, making it suitable for small town rides, and since it has less parts, making it easier to build. Electric vehicles can start off as expensive, but overall they're actually cheaper. Tesla's trying to make a new battery for the car, so it can cost about $150,000, but it's averagely about $50,000. It may seem like electric vehicles are more expensive, but over time they're actually less expensive. On May 25th, 2022, Courtney Lamoha explains to fuel electric vehicles $485 a year, while to fuel gas vehicles $1,117 a year. And this is even including the Russia versus Ukraine war. Gas vehicles also typically need a lot of maintenance for spark plugs, oil changes, and so forth. Electric vehicles rarely ever need maintenance. When they do, it only costs up to about half the maintenance for a gas car. From this, you overall save about $6,000 to $10,000. Owning an electric vehicle has some drawbacks, but electric vehicles can go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in the blink of an eye and is environmentally friendly. So really, electric vehicles should replace gas vehicles. They're healthier and cheaper to own because of the overall balance of good and bad. Maybe after this presentation, you should consider recommending it to a friend, or maybe even buy one yourself.
Right? So your 3 points were that electric cars are eco-friendly, easier to build, and cheaper than gas cars, right? Yes. Okay. So what is the site that you used to know what parts of the electrical car there are?
This was an article by um, this was an article by Zach Hurst.
How do you know this article is trustworthy?
It was trustworthy because it had many upvotes on the site, meaning that many people also agreed with him and they probably looked at other sources, meaning that it's probably more reliable.
Okay. So you also said that electrical cars are more eco-friendly. Are you sure about that? Since there are children in the Congo that are mining the cobalt that go into the electrical cars, that is unhealthy for them, and it might lead to deathly situations with them. What are your comments on that?
Well, it's also used to refine gas and in gasoline for gas cars, and it's also used in China. And child labor is used almost for everything. It's used for fireworks, textiles, carpets, shoes. So if it looks like you're willing to wear shoes, so I'm going to stop supporting electric cars for those reasons when you stop wearing shoes.
Yes, but electrical cars, compared to shoes or an iPhone, I would say electrical cars use more cobalt than shoes or an iPhone, and so I think and so maybe we should like give them less work to do than more work.
Well,
What are your comments on that?
there are about 17 million iPhones and computers combined, which both use lithium and cobalt mining. So if you're trying to argue that there's only about 16 million electric vehicles and there's billions more phones. So
Okay.
obviously use more phones.
All right, that's 2 minutes of cross-ex. Nice job. Kayla, whenever you're ready for your speech, go ahead.
Okay. Bruce Lee once said that if you love life, don't waste time, for time is what life is made up of. When you try and charge your electric vehicle, you waste time. So therefore, thus electric vehicles should not replace gas vehicles because they can be hacked, they have long charging times, and they are expensive. Electric vehicles can be hacked because a year ago, the autopilot of Tesla Model X was hacked, and not only once. The EV systems can only alert you of being hacked, but cannot do anything and cannot recover once someone has remote access to your car. This is very dangerous because they can shut off things like your sensor system, and they can open and close your windows, like a hacker once found out. This is very scary because if someone hacks your car at the wrong time, like if you're on the highway or something, your life could be in big danger. The article also mentions that someone hacked the Tesla Model X to steer in the wrong direction. More incidents like this will happen if we switch to electrical cars, and therefore very dangerous. Electrical cars also have long charging times. It takes 8 hours for an EV charge to go from empty to full on a 60 kWh battery. For a gas car, it takes up to like 5 minutes for a V6 engine to go from empty to full. And it also doesn't wear out the battery like it does on an EV. This makes you wait longer to go somewhere and very inconvenient. Electrical cars are also more expensive than gas cars. There is a global shortage of battery resources right now, and it takes more money to mine new materials. The higher costs are then transferred to the buyer when they want to buy a new EV, and it makes you lose money. But all batteries die at some point, right? Like a phone battery. It's the same with a car battery. So the question is, how much is it to replace it? Currently, it's in the 5 digits to replace an EV battery. In 2017, it took $15,000 to replace a battery in the EV Chevy Bolt. The electric vehicle also has automatically installed a bunch of electrical sensors, and when you go for repairs, you're going to need more money to fix those electrical issues. If we switch to electrical cars, we would be losing money instead of saving. These are the reasons why electrical cars should not replace gas cars. It's because they can be hacked, they have longer charging times, and they are more expensive than gas cars. Why should we waste time on something that could be done in a few minutes? Try and think about that.
My first question is, what kind of, it appears that your cars that you stated have been hacked were only Teslas. Were there any other kind of electric vehicles that were hacked?
About that question, well, from my research, it has shown that there's a 94% growth in hacks since 2016. So I don't think it's just about Teslas. And I haven't gone through further study of what cars, but it has shown that it has been over 150 hacks.
And how are they getting hacked?
They're getting hacked through the systems, whether it's autopilot or whether you're on whether you're driving like calmly, because electric cars have very high they're very high tech, so that they can be hacked. And a hacker once found out that they can turn off the sensor system.
Okay. So if you're relating this all to Teslas,
Yes.
like Tesla is the main electric car, but there are many other electric cars in the world. So what makes you think that because 2 Teslas got hacked, that is? And also,
I said
Tesla's the only car with autopilot, the only electric car with autopilot.
yes, but just because they're the only one with autopilot doesn't mean they can't. Just because other cars don't have autopilot doesn't mean they can't be hacked, because they still run on electricity and they still have a lot of technical stuff that happens there, so they can be hacked.
But you said that they are more expensive than gas cars, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
have you considered the fuel going up, the fuel and maintenance costs going up, especially with the Russia versus Ukraine war?
Okay. Can you repeat that question? I didn't really understand it.
Fuel and maintenance costs have been going up because of the Russia versus Ukraine war. What do you have to say about this?
It's true that that fuel is going up, but it's also hard to find electrical chargers. And when you do, it also takes a long time. So yeah.
But Joe Biden in 2030 is planning to put 500,000 new charging.
Yes, but that's in 8 years, and even if he did put them down, it would still wouldn't compare to the amount of chargers that there is amount of gas fueling places right now.
What is that number?
It would be about like 1 to 1,000 probably.
Stations
from electric stations to gas stations, because gas stations they are primarily the cars we use right now, and electric cars are rarer, and so electric stations are rarer than fueling stations.
But what about their growing popularity?
All right, guys, that's time. Thank you for your cross-ex. Alicia, whenever you're ready for your refutation speech.
Can I have a minute of that time?
Yep.
What do I want to say? Oops.
All right, that was 1 minute, Alicia.
In your opening speech, you gave 3 claims: that electric cars can be hacked, they have long charging times, and they're overall more expensive. Well, for your first point, you said that they could be hacked. The only cars that you reported that could be hacked were Teslas. And Tesla's not the only brand of electric cars. And so once you have more information about other cars, there's also a report by Brandon Myers who talks about ways that you can prevent your electric car from being hacked, like not leaving your password in the car and getting a higher security system. You also said that there are long charging times, but this can be quickly fixed with time. It's really easily fixed with time. And so I don't think that that's a big problem right now. And since time can easily fix it. Also, you said that they're more expensive, which isn't true because they can be more expensive at first, but if you lease your car, it's a lot easier to afford it. And at used dealerships, you can get it for as low as $5,000. Then if you count the cost for fuel and maintenance, it tallies up to over $1,000. So from this, you could save from $6,000 to $10,000, especially with the 7.5 thousand tax credit you get from the government. You can also save money on tolls. In some countries, you get it, or states, you can get a 10 to 15% discount on tolls.
Okay. So Alicia's first point was that electric cars are more eco-friendly, but it is shown that electricity is actually produced from fossil fuels and it can have some harmful effect on the environment. Manufacturing an EV also requires using more power energy than gas vehicles, almost twice the amount. And it's just disposing a battery in nature can equal to a very serious hazard. Her second point was that electric cars are easier to build, but a recent tour of the Magnus Steyr assembly plant in Graz, Austria, shows that it's not the case. The plant makes the Jaguar I-Pace, which is an EV electric vehicle, and the Jaguar E-Pace, which is a gas vehicle. And it shows that there's about the same number of assembly stations and line workers that are used to make these two vehicles. While EVs don't have something EVs don't have some things that gas vehicles have. It shows that they had two separate things that gas vehicles don't have. And so there were 50% more labor input for the motor module in an electric car. Alicia's last point was that electric cars are cheaper than gas cars, but the batteries are expensive to produce. And the main reason that electric cars are more expensive than gas cars, it also, for a battery replace, it takes from $0 to $20,000. But when the manufacturer warranty is done, you actually have to pay more money instead of not paying that much. And the Kelley Blue Book states that the price for the EV in April 2022, like an average price, is $51,532, which is more than $11,000 higher for a full-size gas car, and nearly 30,000 more than average compact sale. The average gas car price is about like 46,329, and the average electric car is about 56,437. So that's like about a $10,000 difference. That's a lot of money.
I'd like to use the rest of my prep time.
Okay. All right, that is 2 minutes, Alicia.
Though you did make some good points in your refutation and opening speech, I still think that electric cars should replace gas vehicles. First, they are better for the environment. Gas cars release really toxic things like carbon monoxide and benzene, which can pollute our water, and with it contaminating our water, it also can cause blood cancer, which is a 40% chance to get blood cancer from benzene. You also claimed that since it has cobalt, it's actually worse. But since gas vehicles also use cobalt, and which is also produced by child labor, which you did argue, then, but so is fireworks, shoes, bricks, and all that stuff. And it looks like you're fine using those. And you said that they're expensive, which is not true. After you tally up everything for the total cost of an electric car maintenance and fuel costs, you save about $6,000 to $10,000, and you also get that tax credit, which is $7.5K. Now, you also said that they're harder to build, which is not true because ICE engines have thousands of little gasoline explosions inside of it, which explode every second while operating. It needs a fairly elaborate cooling system, and needs a lot of special measures to reduce emissions. That sounds like a lot of work. So also, this person who wrote this article stated that electric vehicles are easier to build than gas vehicles. So overall, we should switch to electric vehicles because they are better for the environment, easier to build, and overall, they're less expensive than gas cars.
So, in your refutation points, you said that I only talked about the Tesla being hacked, but that's not true. Because there was a 94% growth in hacks in 2016, and 150 or so cyber hacks were made, and the Detroit Free Press said that they were more common than people thought. And for the long charging times point you gave me, it does take a long time to charge, and even if it did take less than an hour, it would be about 16.3 pence per mile, and that would be on a 150K rapid charge, which is the fastest charge you can get for an electric car right now, and that would be 9% more expensive than what you have to pay for gasoline. Now we get into the expenses part. The battery is 40% of the cost of the EV, and compared to a gas car, I think that would be more expensive because also as I said, the Kelley Blue Book price for an EV in April 2022 is about $51,532, which is $11,000 higher than a full-size gas car, and nearly $30,000 more than an average compact car for sale. And now we go back to eco-friendliness. And the lithium ion in the battery actually is very, very pollutive, and the nickel inside of the motors is very pollution and very pollutive, and it can lead up to nasal and lung cancers, which is also very bad for your health. And it shows that electric cars aren't as eco-friendly as you think. And these are the reasons. And I think that, and even if I don't win this argument, I still think that gas cars are better because they can go farther than electric cars. And Chadia Asi, the professor of CIISE, said that all electric cars can be hacked and potentially infected with malware with malware in the chargers and stuff, which can potentially shut down a lot of charging stations. Thank you.
All right. So let's give it up for your students. They all did exceptionally well. I would just like to make, note that most of our students in this class have no debate experience at all. And so the fact that they're able to learn within 2 weeks, not only the confidence to be publicly speaking, but also to have a full 22-minute length debate with cross-examination. So we're very proud of our students in the growth that they've had just over these past 2 weeks. I've enjoyed my time with your 4 students very greatly, and I would love to see them at another camp at Capitol Debate. Again, we do have more camps this summer in person and virtually that they were able to attend, as well as we also do have the club league in the fall and spring that is at night, and we do have some tournaments if they're more interested in competitive debate. So thank you for entrusting me with your students and allowing me to get the chance to work with them. I hope that all of you enjoy your summer, and we at Capitol Debate thank you again for working with us and participating in our camps, and I hope to see all of you again. Thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye.